Welcome everyone to the game between the world champion Domaraju Gukesh as he takes on Fabiano Caruana. On the first day, it was Gukesh who managed to beat Caruana in both their personal encounters. And then on day 2, it was Caruana who managed to beat Gukesh one game and a draw, 1.5. And now it's the third time that they face off against each other, and this will be very interesting to see how things pan out for Caruana. It's quite important, this encounter, but he already has lost his chance to win the tournament by losing to Magnus 2-0. But definitely would love to beat Gukesh here so as to he can finish with more points, and also for every win you have additional money that you can win. He opens the game with c4, e5 by Gukesh, pawn to g3, and now knight f6 is a normal common move, but Gukesh pauses and plays his pawn to d5. A very interesting variation where you bring your queen out and attack the rook, knight to f3 blocking it, knight c6, and now white will win a tempo with knight c3 attacking the queen, and Gukesh goes back queen d8, bishop comes to g2, knight to f6, and white castles. Pawn comes up to h6. So essentially what black is saying is that I have a very nice position here. I'm slightly behind in development. If you can open up the position with d4, that would be great, but you can't do it. So b3 played. And now Gukesh brings his bishop to d6, but I think this allows d4. Fabi goes first bishop b2, castles, and now I believe d4 makes a lot of sense, because after takes, knight takes, queen takes, white is slightly better and he pushes the pawn to d4. Gukesh is playing very quickly, now takes 2 minutes for this move, queen e7, because something's gone wrong for him in the opening. Pawn takes. You could have even pushed the pawn here, by the way. Knight takes, and now knight to b5. Notice this is a very dangerous moment, because if you play bishop e5, which looks logical, then bishop a3 needs to be worked out, but there is c5. So actually bishop e5, not a bad move, but Gukesh goes bishop to c5. And now Fabi takes on f6 and pawn takes, because if you took with the queen, knight c7 is a free pawn. So you have to take back here, and now e3. And look at this position. Black has a weakened structure on the king side with these doubled and broken up pawns. In fact, they are doubled and isolated. They look very ugly. But what is Gukesh's compensation in return? Well, he has the bishop pair, and he also has the queen side majority. 3 pawns versus 2. These are not things to be taken lightly here. Queen comes to e2 and then goes to c2, putting pressure on the f5 pawn. Bishop comes back, and now knight e2. I like how Fabi is maneuvering his knight to the f4 square, and the rook comes to d1, bishop e6. Black's position is quite nice and easy to play. You can go a5, a4 as the next plan. King comes up to g2, and yes, pawn to a5 played by Gukesh. He has 5 minutes 28 seconds. Fabi has 3 minutes on the clock, and a very nice maneuver. He's going with his knight to d3, putting pressure on the bishop and looking at the f4 square. King comes up to g7, knight to d3. The bishop goes back to d6, and now rook d2. Fabi intends to double down the d file, and Gukesh needs to find a way to counter this, and he plays bishop b4, a lovely move attacking the rook. Maybe rook e2 or rook d1 back, but Fabi gets tempted to take this, and by taking here, a takes b4 would then create a weakness on the a2 square. Is that weakness material? That remains to be seen. He takes a b4, And now rook to d1 played. Rook takes rook. And if you take with, you can take with the rook, you can also take with the queen here. He takes with the queen, putting pressure on the b4 square. A pawn to c5. And one of the ideas here, after getting the rook out, is to play b5 and c4, mobilizing that majority, and a queen trade offered here. Queen c2. Fabiano declines the queen trade. And Gukesh moves in with the queen. A very nice move, because if queen takes queen, pawn takes, already the a2 pawn is soft, the bishop is looking here, so that's not a good idea. And now actually the position gets a bit tense here for Fabi. And he has 1 minute on the clock. Gukesh also has a minute on the clock. And Caruana is trying to deduce what to do, because c4 is also coming up, and after pawn takes, bishop takes, a2 pawn would be under pressure. So he goes rook d2, he moves his rook up, and now c4. Gukesh moving quickly and rapidly. 14 seconds, 38 for Caruana. He chops off the pawn on b7, but this is not great, because now rook b8 is a fantastic move. If the bishop goes back, you take twice and take on b3 and push your b pawn. He goes rook a7, bishop comes back, pawn takes pawn, and now chops off the pawn on b3. So if takes, black is winning here. The c pawn is too strong. And this is the dream scenario that Gukesh was hoping for. His kingside weaknesses haven't really bothered him, while his queenside majority has helped him create a passer. Queen takes queen, rook takes. I love how Caruana is trying to defend this. He goes rook d4, lovely move again. Rook b7, if possible, would have been great, but it is not. The bishop looks here, so b3, and the rook goes behind the passer. That's very important for Fabi. Rook comes to a1, and now the idea is hopefully you can get b1, b2, b1, but it's not easy. Rook b1 played, and when you play b2, there will be bishop a2. So those are the problems that you are facing. King comes up to f3, and Gukesh goes to d1 with just 2 seconds on his clock and attacks the bishop. Can the bishop snatch the pawn is the question. He takes it. Caruana takes it with 1 second, and look at his expression there. Bishop takes, rook takes, and now he's exchanged down. Is this position winning for Gukesh? Not really. This is a theoretically drawn position or objectively drawn position, but you know, the side with the rook can try a bit. King goes back. Gukesh's king is coming in. Gukesh's dream scenario is if his king manages to come here and he starts attacking the f2 and h2 pawns. So pawn to h4 played by Fabi. Pawn f6. He puts all his pawns on dark square so that the bishop cannot attack it. f3 played, and now this opens up the path to the king to enter. King d4 played by Gukesh. Can he beat Fabiano here? Look at this. White king has to start moving as well, but the f3 pawn was hanging, and now he goes king h3, king f2, bishop h5. Very nice move there by Fabi. And yeah, rook waits, and now the only move is king g4. Very important. He finds it. He gives up the f3 pawn, goes bishop g6, defends this, and goes after the h pawn. This is brilliant play by Caruana, because otherwise he was almost on the verge of losing the game. He had no moves. King h5, rook goes back, bishop f5, attacking the rook. Rook moves to h2 and now takes the pawn. And now Caruana goes and picks up the f6 pawn, and Gukesh gives back the rook. What a game this was. And a draw is agreed. Both of them played incredibly well. In fact, I would say Gukesh played excellently. And Fabi instantly says that you should have played rook c2 somewhere. Yeah, it's very nice to see how Gukesh managed to put so much pressure. It actually reminds of this famous game between Capablanca when he made use of his queenside majority. That was against Marshall in the Tarrasch. But yeah, this is a very instructive game by Gukesh as well. Just that he couldn't really break through because Caruana defended so well. He was so resourceful, and this shows why Fabi and Gukesh are two of the best players in the world. They managed to create some magic, and in this game, you get to learn about pawn structure, about the bishop pair, about pawn majorities, and this is the reason why I find this game very instructive. In the end, it was a draw, and a final game between Gukesh and Caruana will be played. But for now, this is Sagar Shah signing off. Bye bye.